All right, everybody. I am back with Tom on the Andre Duke Show. We are going to talk some NFL football and some college football today. Tom is on Astros and Aneurysms uh, on the PSF. He's all over there on Pro Sports Fans. Uh, Check him out. Uh, I'll put his links in the bio on YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button, everybody. Tom, how you doing?
I'm good, sir. Strohs just got done winning a really exciting game. We had that over on the PSF app. It wasn't always perfect. CJ struggled, but the offense showed up where they kind of been lacking the last couple of days. Presley closed it out. Uh, it was a good win. Definitely needed to keep pace with the Rangers.
Oh yeah, that I mean baseball is heating up. It's coming down the stretch right now, so I mean you're in the thick of it. Got the Stros hat on. Uh not not too early playoff prediction. What are you thinking for the Stros?
It's going to be tough, man. This year, unlike the years past, I think there's so much more competition in the AL. Yeah, the Blue Bloods aren't there like the Yankees or the Red Sox, but Baltimore looks really strong. Obviously, Texas looks really strong. And then you just really never know what's going to happen with the wild card race. There's definitely a couple teams out there that have the offenses, have some pitching that are able to compete. And like we see every year in baseball, it just takes one team to get hot. Doesn't matter if it's a wild card team or a division winner. So I'd like to say that the Stros will get all the way back to the series. I mean, the NL is super strong. There's a couple of juggernauts over there, but we'll see. I mean, definitely an ALCS at a minimum for me.
I can't say I disagree. I I think it's going to be all the sports books love the Astros, so I think it's going to be Braves, Astros, maybe Braves in seven. Unpopular opinion, but you know, uh, let's turn the focus to the NFL. We'll start off in your division, the AFC South. A little bit of my predictions. I got the Jaguars winning the South, but I feel like the Texans can have a push towards winning the division. And I feel like Tennessee's going to falter down the stretch because they got Tannehill, and then the Colts are just god awful.
It's really going to be interesting. I think the AFC South is wide open, and as a Texan fan, I'd like to tell you that they're going to do some things, but it still remains to be seen. There's so much unknown with the Texans. There's a lot of positive vibes for the young crowd out there that feels the club environment. D'Amico Ryans looks fantastic. Everything he's saying, everything he's doing, he looks like an amazing teacher. So I feel like they're going to be more what's the words I'm looking for? They're just going to be a better all around, well coached football team. Where in years past, I think there was an expectation that they'd be good because of the coaching. I think this year you're going to see it. You're going to see them be a little bit more attentive to detail. You're going to see them clean up some of the tackling mistakes they made. I think the defense is going to be their staple, and we'll see what happens with this young offense because there's a lot of young weapons in there to include C.J. Stroud, and you hope that they're able to shock some people. The Jaguars, I agree that feels like they are the division winner. It's just they're a more complete football team right now. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is further along in his development, so he's going to be able to lead that team more than I think any of the other quarterbacks in the division. You spoke about Tannehill. He's got a big new shiny toy in DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see if he's able to utilize him properly. This is a guy that had A.J. Brown, and while they flashed, they were never able to get over the hump with their offense. The Colts, they're going to start their young stud. They're going to start Anthony Richardson, AR-15. They're going to go with him. He's flashed a little bit in some preseason action. He still looks really raw, though. So they're also having issues with a Jonathan Taylor with his contract. So it'll be interesting to see just that whole division as a whole. I could see everybody beating each other up. There's be a whole bunch of other ugly records, and potentially somebody that's 9-8 wins the thing or something like that.
On my prediction, with everything that you just said, I got the Jaguars at 10-7 winning the division, just for the simple fact of that they could go on the road to Houston and lay an egg or drop one. Sticking in the AFC, let's talk about the AFC East, which is a big contention of mine. I have the Jets winning that division. And when it comes to the Jets winning that division, I have the Bills might miss the playoffs. I have the Dolphins might miss the playoffs. And the Patriots might make the playoffs.
All right, hold on. That's those are bold statement after bold statement after bold statement. You got to break this down for me. How on earth? I mean, maybe the Madden curse. Maybe that's where you're getting the Bills faltering. They still look great on paper. Amazing talent everywhere. Miami, another one. Amazing talent. Tell me how you're getting there with this division.
The issue I have with this division is that the Bills are one QB scramble away from being the Arizona Cardinals. Because if I held you to the fire right now, can you name who the backup is in Buffalo?
I can't. I'll be honest.
Exactly. That's my point. And Miami is one bad hit or one QB sack away or a 15-yard penalty away from, being in the same boat. The Patriots under Belichick, they're proven. They just signed Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's going to be hungry. They finally have an offensive coordinator. They don't have a D-line coach calling plays for them. I feel like Mac Jones will take a step forward in a certain aspect to having Bill O'Brien, an NFL offensive coordinator, actually coach him so he can get the ball out on time and throw the ball down the field and call plays that will be conducive to them winning games instead of Matt Patricia, the defensive line coach / D coordinator, calling plays in New England. I don't see Tua being healthy because I think Miami's got some holes on the offensive line, and I think the Bills have regressed each year from when they hit the pinnacle to the AFC Championship. I think they're just slowly dying off. That's just me. I think the Patriots are better than what people think.
I that's a bold statement. That's a tough one. I'll be honest. I do not have the Patriots sniffing this division in the slightest, or a playoff spot for that matter. I think that every one of the other teams is going to be drastically better. I think that you're going to see a hungry, motivated Dolphins team. I think you're going to see a hungry, motivated Jets team. You're going to see a hungry, motivated Bills team. And your comment about them being one QB scramble away. Do you know the backup quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs? I don't. And you know what? Literally, Mahomes was out there on one leg, and they still won the dang thing. So it's so hard to predict injuries. It's so hard to predict a quarterback going down. I think we've seen both of those guys take a ton of punishment and still keep coming back for more. So I think Buffalo's still the class of that division. I think the Jets are going to be improved, and it'll be interesting to see what happens because there's so much parity in the league right now where in years past you were able to see 2, maybe 3 teams that were head and shoulders above everybody else. Everybody's coming to the table with a lot of talent this year.
Last year's backup quarterback for the Chiefs was Chad Henne until he retired. I haven't completely dove through the rosters yet, but I will say this. Ever since Brian Daboll left the Bills to go to New York, we're not on the NFC side of things yet, but Daniel Jones has gotten a lot better, and Josh Allen hasn't.
Well, the thing I'll say about Josh Allen is the ceiling's already up here. I don't think his production has regressed. I just think he hasn't produced the end result that I think a lot of people want. I think he's still running for a ton of yards. I think he's still throwing for a ton of yards. His team's still scoring a ton of points. Are they getting the wins that they need? Probably not, but I don't think that's any fault of that offense and that quarterback.
I feel like whenever you have a coach like Brian Daboll that can, he can go up and tell Josh Allen, hey, don't throw the hitch, throw the screen, throw the bang eight, don't throw the dig route. And I feel like McDermott can't go up and tell him that. And I feel like that's why when it comes to the crunch time, and that's when the Bills haven't delivered, is in crunch time, when they absolutely needed him to deliver that. He hasn't been able to. Enough with the East. Let's go West, because I feel like I'm gonna shock you a little bit on this. I got the Chargers winning the West.
I probably would have been shocked about 2 weeks ago. However, when a particular quarterback out of Cincinnati came up with an injury, a soft tissue injury to start his season, and I think that's going to be something that's going to linger, I worry about them. And the only other team in that division, in my opinion, that can even challenge Cincinnati is the Chargers. Obviously, Herbert just got paid. They've got a lot of good young talent too. And
you're wanting to say I said West because we got LA, Kansas City, Denver, and the Raiders in the West. I think you were talking Mahomes.
No, I was talking about well, I was earlier.
Yeah. I think you got.
You're right. I got my division mixed up. You're right. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's a little late.
Yeah.
You're right. You're definitely shocking the world with that pick, because no one's going to pick against Kansas City.
The reason why on that end of it is because I already know you want to jump into the AFC conference game, and we'll get to that. The reason why I think the Chargers will win that division, it'll come down to tiebreakers. And I think the Chargers have a slightly easier schedule. If you, in some spare time, if you go through and look at their schedule opposed to Kansas City, I think their schedule's easier. And I think the Chargers can steal one from KC.
It'll be tough. I know those games are always close. Those division rivalries are always a little bit different. It's Kansas City, man. They just find ways. And as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, as long as they have Travis Kelce, and then there's normally somebody else that comes along for the ride, whether it's Kadarius Toney or one of the other wide receivers out there, they just get it done. And their defense is always bend but don't break, and they're always there at the end. They score a ton of points. You basically have to get in a track meet with them. And so far, no team in the AFC has been able to do that and be successful, outlasting them.
The reason why I have LA winning the West is because I think Kansas City makes the playoffs, and I think Denver makes the playoffs this year. I think
that math don't add up.
No, I mean, I think one of we haven't got to the North. I think only one team in the AFC North gets in the playoffs. I think the division that has the three teams in the playoffs is going to be the West, because I think they're that much better than everybody else.
That's a bold statement there. I don't know if we get there. That's going to be wild.
because I think Buffalo don't get in, and I don't think Miami gets in. Patriots, I'm 50-50 on.
Oh, I thought you had the Patriots in. My bad. Okay,
They're
I guess
50-50.
that math does work, but man, still, that's
It's
crazy.
it's 50-50. We can Denver is going to be better. I think the weirdo Mr. Unlimited will figure it out. He's got Sean Payton. He's been kicked out of his Broncos office, so he doesn't have an office anymore. I listen to a little talk radio out that way, and they break down more of the Western teams. So I feel like Denver's going to be up and down, but I feel like Sean Payton will find a way to get it in. And then we'll go to the crown jewel of the AFC. If Joe Burrow is hurt, I'm saying this because on the Coach JB show, he said Burrow is screwed, might be out for the year. In the event that Joe Burrow is out for the year, but if he's 100% healthy and plays all year, I have the Bengals winning that division. But if Burrow is out, misses 5, 6, 7 weeks, the Bengals ain't going to sniff the division because the Steelers are going to win the division.
The Steelers? Wow.
Yes. I
think you wrote every hot take you could write down. Like, you know what? This sounds like a hot take. Let me get that one in there.
No.
The Steelers of that division, Baltimore looks like on paper like they're the team. I've seen some of their practice with OBJ and they look really good, man. They look really good.
The report that I seen was there was an instance that Lamar got frustrated because he didn't know where to go with the ball because they got the new offensive coordinator, Malkin, threw his helmet off and punted the ball down the field because I don't think Lamar understands the offense, and I think that's going to be a problem, and he's got guaranteed money, so if he gets nicked up, banged up, he might not play. Load management. That's why I think Baltimore will scuff and sputter. They're going to come out of the chute. They might start off 4-5-0, and I think they'll falter down the end of it. And then Baltimore has a decision to make. Do you stick with Lamar that you got all this guaranteed money to, or do you keep Harbaugh? I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Why would they be at odds? That's an interesting take. I don't think I've heard that anywhere. Go ahead.
Because I don't think Harbaugh wanted to pay him. I think Harbaugh wanted to punt him.
Wow. I don't know that it would come down to that. I think Harbaugh would resign if it got to that point. I don't think they'd fire him. But I think to your point, when you spoke about the offense, I feel like if anything, even if Lamar doesn't have a grasp of the offense, all these added weapons that he's going to have around him now, it's going to make it easier and give him more lanes to do what he likes to do, which is run the football. And eventually, I think when you start to load the box to stop him from doing that, even if you don't know where to go with the football, you're going to get man on man. Now, can he get the ball there? Is going to be the $1 million question. I saw him underthrow OBJ a few times. So, I mean, Mark Andrews is still going to be across the middle. I think he's going to eat because now you have to be honest on the outside. So he's going to be one-on-one in the middle with a linebacker. Advantage Mark Andrews. So, and they still run the ball effectively, you know, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. The issues I have with the Ravens is that I think their tight end for ever since Lamar's been there is going to be their leading receiver. And the only top end receiver that you could attract is OBJ, a guy with a rebuilt ACL. And like you said, he underthrows. Seeing an 8-man box, it's going to create running lanes. But as you know, in the NFL, them guys can't hit you like that because the rules are different, just like they were for Cam in Carolina. And you've seen how that turned out. Hurt his shoulder, and Cam was never the same. So that's why I like the Steelers, although Kenny Two Gloves. I have my issues with that. Pittsburgh's defense is good. I think they win in spite of Kenny Two Gloves because I think Tomlin is a better coach than Harbaugh. Just my personal opinion. Although the bulk of Tomlin's tenure, he's had Roethlisberger. So, I mean, Tomlin's never had a losing season. Are we getting dangerously close to seeing that? Possibly. He's got 3 playoff wins in 11 years, so I don't think the Steelers aren't going to fire Tomlin, but I'm just saying if push comes to shove, I don't think Lamar will produce down the stretch in crunch time because he's either going to be too banged up or the offense is going to be completely abysmal and the Ravens have a huge decision to make. Do we keep Lamar or do we punt Lamar?
I don't think they can punt Lamar now.
No,
They've invested entirely too much money in him. It's his team going forward. And I think if he ends up being banged up, I think that's when you see them shift more to the run game and maybe try to, beat teams with play action, things of that nature, simple reads across the middle that, Lamar has thrown his entire time there. It's just a lot of talent on that team. I think that the Steelers, they're good, but not great. There's no one that I see on that team and I go, that's a guy you got a game plan for. You're not game planning for two gloves. Najee, you load the box up and that kind of neutralizes him. We'll see. They always find a way. Like you said, not a losing season in 21 years or something like that. They always find a way. But to win the division, win enough games to get into the playoffs, I don't see it.
It's going to be tough. A lot of it is going to depend upon Burrow. If Burrow is 100% or not, that's where I'm at with it. I'm gonna see Pittsburgh twice this year. I'm gonna be there for Jacksonville, and I'm gonna be there the day before Christmas Eve. I'm gonna see him whether Burrow's there or not. But I'm gonna see Bengals Steelers, Bengals Jaguars, or not Bengals Jaguars, Steelers Jaguars, Steelers Bengals. Rolling over to since you're on board for the hot takes, let's just go NFC East. I got the New York Football Giants winning the NFC East.
Man, oh man, how are you going to sleep on the Eagles after everything they've done?
From the Coach JB show, he makes a lot of good points upon Jalen Hurts had his first year in the league outside the pocket running around. He had his second year in the league based on him standing back in the pocket. He loses his offensive coordinator, and you have a ton of tape on you standing back there throwing at defenses.
Okay, but he's still got tons of weapons. He's got an amazing defense. Is Georgia, right? It's Georgia. Yeah. It's Georgia Light. Yeah. Arguably all the pieces from one of the greatest college defenses to ever walk the earth. Their running game is what, 2 deep, 3 deep. So there's just so much talent on this football team. I love what the Giants have done. I think the Giants are going to be better. I think they might be the second best team in the division, and it's not because I can't stand the Cowboys, although I can't stand the Cowboys. The Danny Dimes, I think, is legit. I think he's for real. I think your point about Brian Daboll is legit. I think it's for real. We'll see. I think those games are going to be very competitive, but I think head and shoulders the team in that division will be and is the Eagles, barring anything unforeseen with health, which that goes all the way across the board.
Well, I mean, football is a war of attrition, and I feel like the Giants last year, their biggest boogeyman was the Eagles. The Eagles beat them 3 times last year, and the only other time I can think of a team beating anybody 3 times in 1 year was the Steelers beating the Ravens in the Flacco years back in 08, 09-ish, somewhere in there, back in the Polamalu years. But that's the only time I can ever think of a team beating them twice in the regular season and then beating them in the playoffs. So I think the Giants possibly get over the hump. I think Saquon is hungry, and I think he is ready to eat. The Cowboys, Dak's not very good. I wouldn't be shocked if Cooper Rush finishes out the season.
Oh wow, that would be that'd be crazy, a crazy turn of events that Dak would be benched. I don't think there's any scenario where that happens, in my opinion. Dallas is gonna always be good, not great. I like the Brandon Cooks signing. I think that was a good step in the right direction to give them more weapons, so it's not just lean on a tight end, which they lost, or lead on your favorite outside receiver. I think I think they have to do it with numbers. Tony Pollard is now the unquestioned, you know, lead back. I think he's very dangerous, and their defense is pretty solid as well. So we'll see. That division's always one of the best divisions. All those games are always close. They're always competitive.
Well, I mean, in my football knowledge is that you can never count on a team in the NFC East ever, because the Giants won that division 9-7, and they won 2 Super Bowls at 9-7. So I'm not going to sleep on the NFC East ever, and it's always a dogfight. The biggest telling thing for me that I think Dallas has a lot of issues, and I think this is on a parallel to Kansas City with Kelce fighting teammates in training camp. When it comes to when Diggs picked Dak off, there's a clip on Twitter of him calling, Dak like, you a bitch. Like, I played high school football, and you're not calling the Q a bitch. And I think Dallas has locker room issues, and I think Kansas City has locker room issues. That's why I picked the Chargers in that scenario. But I think Dallas has bigger locker room issues because I think it's divided there. Because Cooper Rush went 4-1, and his only loss was to the Eagles. And then as soon as Dak was quote-unquote healthy, they brought Dak back in, and then the first game he came back, he didn't play that great, but they still won. You got to remember, Cooper Rush beat the Bengals. He beat Joe Burrow. Even though it was at home, I don't think Cooper Rush is that bad.
I got nothing negative to say about Cooper Rush. I don't think he's a bad QB either. I just think that they've invested in Dak, and Dak is that dude that they've put their dollar behind, kind of like we talked about with Lamar and things of that nature. I think they're going to try really hard to make it work with Dak, and that might even mean that coach being fired. Now, where you talked about Harbaugh, I can't see that, but I could definitely see McCarthy getting the boot, because this isn't the first time we've seen this with that particular coach. So it's interesting. I don't know of any. I don't know that locker room divide is as big as you say it is. Same thing with the Chiefs. I don't necessarily feel that that's like that. I think you're always going to get that kind of like fiery back and forth in practices. You're right. Normally the quarterback is above reproach, but we'll see.
The star tight end shouldn't be trying to fight a practice squad DB because the guy smacked his arm. If you feel that entitled, you got an issue. I get it. The Chiefs just won a Super Bowl, but then again, Travis Kelce's had off the field issues. I mean, he has. I mean, he almost got kicked out of Cincinnati. You couldn't keep it together at Cincinnati, so you got a second chance at life. So I think I'd make the most of it. And I would think that if I was a 2-time Super Bowl winning tight end, if somebody smacked my arm, I'd grab his face mask and say, hey, man, you're trying to make a team here. I don't even know what your name is, but hey, let's not do that. But you may not do that on the practice field. Maybe there was a conversation afterwards, but who knows? Also, we got to get to the last team in the division, the Wussies. I'm calling them the Washington Wussies. I don't know what they're going to be. I think Ron Rivera gets fired. I think the enemy takes over. Who knows what they are? But I mean, they just got rid of Daniel Snyder. Um, they got to figure something out because they cannot continue to lose. They need a new stadium for one, a new stadium, and maybe a new coach could be the enemy, and just a complete revamp. Because I thought whenever Lamar was having the contract issues, because he's from that neck of the woods, I figured Lamar would have went over there with the enemy, and the rest would have been history. But I don't know. I just don't see Washington being that good. No quarterback, but they got Terry McLaurin. They got a couple of playmakers. That defense should be better. What say you, Tom?
It's a tough spot for them right now. I think they're in the middle of a rebuild, which is probably the best thing for them at this point in time, because all these other teams are kind of like they're set up. It's like you either want to be at the top or you want to be at the bottom. You don't ever want to be in the middle. So I feel like they're at the bottom right now. It'll be interesting to see if Eric Bieniemy does get the job. It was always kind of like this foregone conclusion that he should be a head coach somewhere. And I think that it makes a lot of sense that he went to Washington in the fact that if Ron Rivera was to be on the hot seat, he would be the next in line. I don't think he was ever going to be the next in line in Kansas City because it doesn't look like they're stopping. Where, like you said, this could all be done at the end of the year, and he could be the head coach by the end of the year. It's interesting, they have new ownership with Magic Johnson, and they're talking about changing the name and all this stuff. I think they're on the bottom. I think that's probably a good spot to be for them right now because they're not ready to compete with these other teams in their division. So load up on the draft capital, load up on the good young talent, and then turn around and become something maybe in 2 or 3 years.
I think the coach, you said you brought Kansas City back up. I think the coach in waiting at Kansas City is Matt Nagy. He's on the staff. I think he's the coach. All right, speaking of Matt Nagy, let's turn our attention to the NFC North. I have the Bears winning the NFC North.
I think you're on a mission to pick all the underdogs in every division. That's pretty interesting. The Bears are going to be better, I think. I think Justin Fields is going to take a step forward. I still think they're a ways away. I don't think their defense is to the level that it probably needs to be to compete with the Vikings, in my opinion. That offense is super high powered, and they just put up big numbers. I think they're going to be a little bit better too. I do love Roschon Johnson, though. I thought that was a great pick by them. I think he is going to be the number one back by the end of the season. Those are really good picks, so we'll see how they go.
The reason why I like the Bears is I think Justin Fields is going to take a step forward. I think the Lions are probably going to have more guys suspended for gambling. And then the Vikings have a horrible defense. They lost to Danny Dimes in the playoffs. I think Cousins is a year older, which doesn't help. And I think Jordan Love is absolutely horrible in Green Bay. But with that being said, even if Jordan Love is decent, their defense is just as bad as the Vikings. So the Lions' defense, I think, is going to be up and down. And I think they're going to have a problem stopping the run because they don't have the big hog mollies up front. That's why I think I give the Bears a slight edge.
It'll be interesting. I mean, you see that on paper, all those teams have warts, right? And in the end, it really just depends on which one of those teams figures out a way to shore up whichever one of their deficiencies. And then whether it's Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit, all three of those have high-powered or more effective offenses than I think Green Bay. So it's I guess the winner of those head-to-heads is really going to determine that division.
I think that division is going to cannibalize itself more than any other. Probably, maybe the AFC North, maybe the AFC West. Let's go down south. NFC South, I have the Carolina Panthers winning that division.
It's a bad division and I think of all the rookie quarterbacks, Bryce Young definitely has the best situation to go into as far as opponent. But man, that's going to be so crazy for me for Bryce Young to win that division. I really like what Derek Carr looked like in St. or New Orleans. I almost said St. Louis. I don't know why. In New Orleans, they put up a ton of points in their first preseason game. He played a little bit more than I think he would normally. Michael Thomas made an appearance. Can't guard Mike. So they have the makings of a really good team. I don't know that I have any faith in what they're doing in Tampa. Tampa's got all kinds of issues right now, quarterback issues, defense issues. And then Atlanta, I really like some of Atlanta's pieces. Obviously, love the running back. Bijan Robinson's a stud. I also think Kyle Pitts can be a stud. Drake London, stud. We don't know what Desmond Ritter is, but they're all young. They're all coming up at the same time. And I really don't know what to make of their defense. I'm sure that's probably a hole for them. But yeah, if I can't hate your pick. It's just I can't say it with any kind of confidence.
Well, I think that division's going to be like the NFC North. It's going to be a war of attrition. The reason why I think Carolina wins that division is because I think they have the best quarterback in that division.
That's a hot take. I know he can be the best quarterback, but I got to believe Derek Carr and all his experience to go in there with the tools he's got. I got to feel like he's gonna put up better numbers than Bryce will year one.
He could put up better numbers, but is it going to translate into wins?
Their defense is better.
I think New Orleans is going to have a problem. I think their O-line. I think they have big holes on the O-line, and I don't think. I watched Derek Carr in Oakland. I watched his last 6 games. He doesn't like to get hit at all. And then whenever Vegas said, we're going to cut you. He didn't show up. And at that point, you get benched. As a starting quarterback in the NFL, you got 8 years in. You get benched and you just say, see you later to the team. Nah, I'm out on you.
See, I think all of that happened in Vegas has put a chip on his shoulder that is like as big as it could possibly be. I think you're probably going to get the very best version of him because of how bad that ended. And he's going to be more motivated and more driven to do more with this Saints team. And in a division where there's clearly no runaway favorite, I think that's what, for me, gives him the edge. I think there's going to be some secondaries he can take advantage of. Obviously, they've got a really good defense. We'll see.
Yeah, I think they go 6-11 and he throws for 4,000 yards.
Wow, that's tough. He's out the league if that happens.
Well, I just feel like he's going to put up gaudy offensive numbers, and I feel like they're just not going to be able to stop anybody. That's where I'm at. But moving on. We'll go to the last division, and then we'll touch on a little college football. The last division of the night is the NFC West. I have the Seattle Seahawks winning the NFC West. And then in second place, I have the LA Rams. And I have the San Francisco 49ers not making the playoffs. I said it.
Well, you are very true to form. I think most people would tell you that regardless of who starts under center for San Francisco, that team is uber ultra talented. They've got a ton of weapons, and they'll just figure it out. I mean, when you can take Mr. Irrelevant and take him all the way to the NFC Championship game, provided that dude had ligaments in his elbow, they probably would have been in that game. The fact that he couldn't throw the ball, 5 yards is probably what stopped San Francisco. I think they're bringing everybody back. I think they're gonna be right back where they were. I do like what Seattle's doing. I think Seattle can be really, really good. It'll be between those two teams for me. I still can't write off San Fran, man. They've got an amazing defense, amazing talent there. And then Christian McCaffrey is the ultimate gadget player. Hell, he may throw for some touchdowns this season.
The big reason why I like Seattle is because they picked up Jackson Smith and Jigma out of Ohio State, and that is a dynamic kid. He didn't play this last year, but if you rewind the tape and go back and watch the Ohio State versus Utah Rose Bowl, I mean, it's like a video game, and it would have been unreal this year if him and Marvin Harrison Jr. would have been on the field at the same time. So I think that just adds to Geno's arsenal. It adds to his war chest because I think, in my opinion, Pete Carroll is the best coach in the NFC.
Wow. I can't go there with you. I mean, he's really good. I don't know if he's the best. The only thing I do like the Njigba pick. I think he's going to be a great wide receiver someday. The only problem that I think he'll have in Seattle is the numbers game. I think, how do you find 7-8 targets for him when you've got DK on one side, Lockett on the other, and a coach that probably wants to run the football? Like, I think you're going to see him. Now, if somebody gets hurt, if DK gets hurt or Lockett gets hurt, totally changes the game. And then I think Njigba steps in. But I believe that, like in most wide receivers, it's year 2 when they make the big jump. The first year is all about learning, trying to understand the route tree, how to beat corners at this next level. So they kind of don't flourish until that second season. So that's why I feel like they're going to be really good next year. And maybe Geno isn't the quarterback. That's just my hot take. But that's something where I think they'll have a lot of weapons at one point.
I don't want to say I don't disagree with you, but in college you can still jam the receivers. In the NFL, you can't jam like they can in college, and you can't play press man like they can. And because me being an Ohio State fan, I've watched JSN for a while, and he makes all of his hay in the slot. So I feel like he's going to get a lot of those, digs, corners, sluggos, slants across the middle. I feel like that's where JSN, and I'm going to go, here's a hot take, he's going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
Because
I got to go with it. Bijan on that one, but go ahead.
I know why you're going Bijan, and you know why I'm going JSN. But you got to remember, all them guys were all in one room at one point in time. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigma, JSN, and Marv were all on the field at one time together, and they were all in the same wideout room together. And I know the guy that recruited them, so I have a lot of faith in JSN winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. But I think it's either going to be him or Bijan. Those are my top two, no matter what. And the reason why I think the Rams will be really good this year, or better, is because Stafford, I think, is going to be healthy. And I think Stafford is way better than Brock Purdy, even though the Niners have the best roster ever assembled. But if you go back and watch the Philadelphia Eagles Niners, game, it was pitiful. That goes to show. And then they have Trey Lance on their roster, which I think either me or you could go out in the backyard and throw a better pass than that guy. I mean, I hate the dog on a professional athlete, but I mean, that dude, yikes. And for how much they gave up for him, that's as Sean says, that's tough sledding. I don't think the guy can play. Get him out of the league. Arizona, this is going to be the most unique situation in the NFL because they're going to be the worst team in football. I will hang my no-filter hat on that. They're going to be the worst team in football. What do you do with Kyler Murray if you have the number 1 and number 2 overall pick?
Well, I'll go out on a limb right now and I'll hang whatever your hat, my hat, every hat. They won't have the number 2 pick. I don't think the Texans will be that bad because they have the Texans first round draft pick for next year. So they may have 1 and say 7 or 8. I don't think they're going to have 1 and 2. But it will be incredibly interesting considering the consensus number 1 overall pick is a quarterback out of USC, Caleb Williams, and you're going to have a need potentially for a quarterback when you have a guy that you don't feel plays that position the way he should. He doesn't put in the time. He doesn't put in the work. He's a diamond level Call of Duty player and a aluminum level, quarterback studier of the game. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I would not want to be that general manager trying to have to figure all that mess out because this is the situation that normally gets somebody fired.
Whenever I look at this situation, being a casual fan looking in, what do you do? How do you even go about picking up the phone and calling another general manager and saying, you want Kyler Murray with this contract attached to it?
You normally probably have to start it with going, either you have a bad contract that I'll take from you, or I'm willing to eat some of this contract if you help me get this guy from out in front of me. And a lot of teams will help you do that. Obviously, if you don't have to go back that far, if you remember the DeAndre Hopkins trade, he wanted more money. Arizona had a running back that they didn't want who was on a big contract, and they swapped guys, and it may go down as the worst trade in NFL history. However, if you look at what DeAndre did between the time he showed up in Arizona till the time he left, the Texans got that from Brandon Cooks. So however you want to dog, the Texans, publicly, it looked horrible. The price per dollar, yard per dollar, however you want to look at it, catch per dollar, it wasn't that bad.
And I'm not a big Bill O'Brien guy. So with that being said, that pretty much sums up the NFL. There is a lot of hot takes there. Turn a second to college football. Have you been following the John Harbaugh saga at all?
No, I have not.
Over the hamburger gate and all this stuff like that. Basically, a synopsis is that he bought a recruit a hamburger, allegedly, and then the NCAA pulls up and they pretty much were like, hey, did you buy this recruit a hamburger? And Harbaugh says, no. And they went back, checked everything out. And long story short, he got caught buying a hamburger, but he lied to the NCAA. So with all of that going on, they decided, Michigan was like, we're going to do our ban, blah, 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 blah. And it ended up turning into a 4-game suspension. And then that was it, And then the NCAA rejects it. And then it was they rejected it. And then they pretty much said, we're going to push it off until next year. And we're going to see what's going to happen. I think he bolts to the NFL.
I don't know. I think he kind of had that. And now he's basically, an icon of the college game. I think the NCAA is really, really missing the forest for the trees and all of this. They make so much money off of all these gambling and daily fantasy and all these things. And now you got NIL deals everywhere where basically it's just free reign for people to pay players to do whatever. It doesn't matter. Anybody and everybody can, and they want to go out of their way to make a big thing over a hamburger. Like, all right, so sit him for a half or something. It's a hamburger. We're talking about $10. You're gonna suspend a guy for 4 games, which is gonna generate how much revenue for the NCAA over a $10 burger or whatever the most expensive hamburger you can buy is, it's still not gonna, the math ain't gonna math. So
No,
for me personally, if you're gonna take one of the faces of your game, which he is, and make him an example, I think you missed it big time on that.
I think the NCAA misses it all the time. I feel like they missed the point big time. Enough about Harbaugh. The next thing that this will be one of the last things. Um, Jimbo Fisher down in A&M. I don't think they pay the buyout. I feel like with everything that goes on down there in Aggie land, I feel like they will find something and get rid of him.
I don't know that that'll happen because A&M's a very prestigious school. Their alumni is very prestigious. Like they would rather it be, hey, we ate this money because they print it in College Station. They're not worried about that buyout. They're not worried about paying the next coach. They print money. They fill that stadium 84,000 strong or whatever it is every game, and they've got boosters forever. The president of my company, Aggie grad, hires Aggies. They got money forever. I don't think they'll ever sweat. Jimbo Fisher didn't work out. Cut him, pay him, keep it moving, hire somebody. They're not worried about that. I think it would be worse if they found something and allegedly or some kind of dirt to make it that way. It would be more a stain on them that they wouldn't want than to come off of the money. I think they'll pay it because it's clearly not working, and A&M needs to do something because they're about to be second fiddle in the state of Texas in the SEC, which was their blue chip when they went to the SEC. Oh no, we're the pride of Texas in the SEC. Not no more. There's a school in Austin where it's burnt orange that'll hold that title next year.
Yes, and when it comes to the Jimbo situation in College Station, I know this much about, you know, people who are in other universities that are high ranking, and you know they want the math to math, and I feel like there's already enough out there to where they could fire him for just cause. Because if you go back and look at Instagram, you got players driving 100 miles an hour through the parking garage. Sounds like lack of institutional control to me. And Zach Smith said it on the Minister Sports podcast that's also on YouTube. He said that it's not out of the realm of possibility for them to find something to fire him for just cause, just to save the money. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
I hear you. Just knowing that institution and knowing the people from it the way I do, I think they would much rather. And I think if you talk to people all the way at the top, they probably agree to it. They'd much rather eat the money and fire him than have a stain on the Aggie name.
Well, the Aggie name's got issues right now, in my opinion, because of the Johnny Football thing. Because that's out in Texas A&M was printing money in the woodshed with that kid.
Oh yeah, I mean, but it's even more reason why they're like, all right, we got to keep our nose clean. I think whatever happens with Jimbo Fisher, if they fire him or whatever, I don't think it'll be other than, hey, we want to go in a different direction. We'll eat the buyout and we'll go get somebody else. We appreciate Jimbo's services, wish him all the best, but it wasn't working, and we'll keep it moving. To like out him on something where they went digging and found something wrong. Just doesn't sound like it to me, anyway.
The only reason why I say that is because they can say, look, this guy's not running a clean program, and this is not the Aggie standard. They can always take that moral high ground and say, Jimbo, you're not faking the funk good enough. But then again, Jimbo, before you leave College Station, just let me know who your agent is, because I would like to have an ironclad deal like that with myself one day. We will. We can always revisit this. Sometime after college football starts, after the NFL starts, and then we can dive into the Longhorns, and which I know that's with you because you're a Longhorns fan. I want to save my prediction for before that big game, that big showdown in Tuscaloosa. I want to save it for then. And with that being said, Tom, I appreciate you coming on with me. Tom's on Aneurysms and Astros on the PSF app, and we got to get Rob in here on this sometime. We gotta carve out some time for Rob, maybe on a Sunday afternoon when he's not working. Or
he's definitely a little different with so he doesn't follow the NFL. Diehard OU fan. So the college game, you would have him. So yeah, you'd have to work that out with him or whatever. But we can definitely sit down and break down college football. We were working on the pro game a little bit, so we'll see how that goes. And appreciate you having me. This is fun. Love talking football. Love talking sports. Anytime, I'm always down to hang out.
All right, Tom. I'll get with you and we can revisit this. But yeah, we gotta get Rob on here to get his take on Venables, because I'm sure it's interesting.
Probably.
But all right, this is Tom. I will make sure and drop his Twitter on the link in the bio. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm putting this one on YouTube. We'll see how it goes, and then after I get it done, Tom, which might be a little bit, I will get it to you. So no edits, no nothing like that. So you can cut it up and post whatever you want.
Cool, sir. I really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. You have a good one, Tom.
You too. Thanks.
Yep, later.